Modi trending on Twitter, becoming a big rage across social media. Joining us now, senior Congress leader from Kerala, Shashi Tharoor. Also with us on this broadcast is Dr. Sambit Patra. I want to go across to Shashi Tharoor first because the BJP is very upset, saying that the Prime Minister's comments, Dr. Tharoor, are being misunderstood, deliberately misrepresented to try and make it seem as if this was meant as a slight. What the Prime Minister was speaking about was the child death ratio among scheduled tribes in Kerala, which he said was scarier than Somalia. The BJP says this is a fact, and the Congress in election season is trying to distort what the Prime Minister said.
Well, first of all, welcome to the world of the Indian media. You are talking to the very person who has been through quite a few bits of exaggeration, distortion, out of context attacks and so on over the last few years. And I'm sure Mr. Modi, who has seen all this, should have been aware of the potential for a remark to be a basis for this kind of attack. So I'm afraid here it's difficult for me to feel sympathy for anyone else because I have been at the receiving end of a lot of this myself. But secondly, on the specific point of the scheduled tribe case, in fact the numbers are not accurate. The Kerala numbers are a good deal better than the all India average for scheduled caste tribes, and in fact scheduled tribes and scheduled castes, and certainly are better than Somalia's. So that the rather dramatic comparison was seen as an affront. You know, when somebody comes as Prime Minister of the country and seems to be attacking the pride of a state, he's bound to get a backlash. And I would say that part of the challenge has been that the Prime Minister, when he puts on his campaign hat, sometimes seems to behave more as a political pugilist than as a Prime Minister. And this backlash, I think, is a reminder that he needs to really remember his principal role in this country.
Dr. Tharoor, while the Congress jumps on this
and uphold the values of all the states.
In election cycle, I want to quote over here a detailed study done by research scholars at the Chittoor College in Palakkad, who analyzed the livelihood status of tribes in Attapadi block and revealed that the Human Development Index of the tribal bloc and African countries like Somalia and Ethiopia are almost the same. I have here a comment by child rights activist Rajendra Prasad, who's fighting for tribal rights in Attapadi. He says conditions are akin to what exists even in impoverished African countries, and this is a blot on the consciousness of literate Kerala. You are talking about the state's Human Development Index numbers. Prime Minister Modi is talking about certain specific communities where there is research to suggest that at least empirically and on data, the Prime Minister isn't necessarily wrong.
No, listen, my point is that we certainly should not diminish the plight of the tribal poor in Attapadi, because in fact the UDF government has taken very specific development measures to help those people. The Prime Minister in his speech first of all chose to speak about tribal children foraging in garbage dumps for food, which was actually something that had already been debunked earlier. It's a picture of two kids who were foraging in the garbage dump for scrap to sell, and who really ought to have been in school, where they had been taken by transport by the school principal, but who were frankly playing truant, and from a family where both parents work and where there was enough to eat. And on top of that, the midday meals in Kerala given to the school children involved not only nutritious food but milk and eggs twice a week. So in these circumstances, there was already outrage that the example the Prime Minister used was completely wrong, and in fact had been already debunked in the mass media. And the Prime Minister has said this, the Chief Minister has said this in his letter to the Prime Minister. From there, the Prime Minister goes on to extrapolate about the condition of the tribal poor. Now, generally, no one can pretend, no respecting honest Indian can pretend that our tribals enjoy the same level of human development as their surrounding compatriots. This is true in India. Sadly, it's even more true in Gujarat, where the condition of tribals is actually appalling.
No, but that's something that the Congress government, Dr. Tharoor, needs to answer
there is
for.
No question.
I have more data here which says that the Human Development Index of three major communities, the Irula, the Muduga and the Kurumben, is similar to that of the Human Development Indices of countries like Somalia. So when the Prime Minister says this, he is on fact. This is not a political assertion. This is at some level reflective of the fact that you've been in government in Kerala for the last 5 years and you haven't succeeded in fixing
Look
this.
at the, yeah. Well, look at the actual numbers and you will see that they are in fact better than Somalia and Ethiopia, but that's not a comparison. We are trying to fix it. I mean, the BJP has been in power in Gujarat for more than 17 years, or 15 years, I beg your pardon. And the fact is that in that time, they have actually witnessed figures which are much worse than the figures in Kerala. By all means, read the comparison yourself. The fact is it's a national problem. The plight of our scheduled castes, our Adivasi people and tribal communities throughout the country is not what it should be, and this is why it has been identified as a major problem by successive UPA and Congress governments in the centre, and in the case of Kerala, Congress government in the state. But despite the best efforts, and there are special relief packages, the fact is that this is a huge challenge that takes time to overcome. I don't think anybody is going to claim that the people of Attapadi are as well off as, let's say, the people living in the city of Thiruvananthapuram. But the fact is that there are remedial measures in place. The larger political problem is for the Prime Minister of India to come here and compare a part of his own country in this disparaging way to Somalia. This is what has touched the pride of Keralites and has resulted in this huge backlash trending on social media that you've described. It's not a rude statement. It basically says, get lost, kiddo, you're wrong here. Because there are larger contexts and larger issues to be understood.
We've heard from the Congress party. I want to go across now to Sambit Patra from the BJP. He's joining us on this broadcast. You just heard Dr. Shashi Tharoor reflect the anger of several people on Kerala. This has gone viral online, and the Prime Minister did something similar before the Bihar elections, the Congress says. Nitish Kumar referred to it, saying that he insulted Bihari pride. Before the elections, they paid the price there. Your opposition is saying the Prime Minister has made another mistake. It's gone viral online. There are several Keralites who are very upset with what Narendra Modi said. Sambit Patra.
No, in fact, it's a problem with the politicians that they pick up the rhetorics and leave the academia aside. And I was astonished. I was listening to what Mr. Shashi Tharoor had to say. I did not expect this from a man of Shashi Tharoor's repute, because he is quite academic in his endeavors. Look, as far as this comparison of one of the human indices, the tribal infant mortality rate, with Somalia is concerned, it's a long-drawn battle in Kerala. And leave aside what the Prime Minister said, I'll just quote from the records of the Assembly of Kerala. June 3rd, 2013, opposition leader V.S. Achyutanandan, who is a stalwart leader of the country, in fact, he made this statement, I quote, "The UDF government, by its continued neglect of the pathetic condition of the tribals of Attapadi, is turning the heartland into a Somalia-type situation," unquote. So this is what Achyutanandan had to say. And Rahul, I was listening to your statistical study as well. I also carried this research which was conducted by the Chittoor College of Palakkad, and the research scholars state, I quote, "Analyzing the livelihood status of tribes in Attapadi block revealed that the human development indices of the tribal block in African countries like Somalia and Ethiopia are almost the same." Secondly,
Sambit, you're telling me what I had said in the research, but you can say what you want. The reality is the BJP ahead of the Kerala polls has a social media nightmare on its hands. You've got Pomone Modi trending on Twitter. It's been the top trend in the state. It's been one of the top trends nationally. He could have meant it in whichever way he wanted. You have to see how it's been perceived by the people, and across social media, people are reflecting their acute anger. And this is not just Congress supporters or left supporters. It seems to be a sentiment that is all pervasive on social media, at least.
No, yes, Rahul, as far as the game of perception is concerned, let me tell you, I mean, no arrogance at all over here. Well, yes, it was an academic indices which was discussed. People of Kerala, in fact, are the pride of this country because they're the most literate people of this country, and I know they would understand when we, the spokespersons and other the party, explain as to what was the context of the decision, because the politicians are trying to play a political game. They are twisting the statements. They're playing on the rhetoric side of it. That is the reason as to why we should come forward and we should explain the truth, and that's what I was doing. I was quoting the research because as the esteemed Prime Minister of the country, the Prime Minister is so well prepared. He has gone through all this research and he warned wants the pride of Kerala to be restored. He's fighting for the pride of Kerala because he loves Kerala. And that's why I was quoting this research, because the research, as rightly pointed by you also, Rahul, that Irula, Muduga and the Kurumben group of the Attapadi has similar HDIs, that is the Human Development Indices of African countries like Somalia, and this has been ranked abysmally low by the United National Development Program. So it's not just India. In fact, the UNDP has also ranked these areas with the indices that the Prime Minister was talking about. So don't you think, as the Prime Minister of the country, he should be concerned about some facts which even the UNDP has picked up? So he was not wrong. And as you also said, you quoted Rajendra Prasad, who is a local activist there working for the benefit of the tribal students there, tribal kids there. He has spoken at length about this issue, and he has also brought the name of Somalia in. So as far as the name of Somalia cropping up in Prime Minister's discourse is concerned, this only speaks to the fact that the Prime Minister is a well-researched person who speaks on facts, which are discussed on ground. Because I quoted not only V.S. Achyutanandan, I also would like to quote, because you have already quoted Rajendra Prasad. So all the luminaries of the area have been speaking about this plight.
Okay, you've heard from the BJP, you've heard from the Congress. As always on India Today, we don't take sides. We leave it to our viewers to decide what they make of this. Make no mistake, this has become a big talking point in Kerala. Not necessarily going down well, but as you just heard Sambit Patra argue using several studies to suggest that what the Prime Minister said was possibly unfact, but how it's being perceived is completely different. I'm going to leave it there. Sambit Patra, Shashi Tharoor for joining us on the Newsroom Showdown. Thank you very much.